right, we are back live, Summit Live here at the Databricks Data and AI Summit. Ari Kaplan, head of evangelism at Databricks.
I am Carly Taylor. Sorry you caught me taking some very serious notes here.
Yeah, one of the things we were talking about, we have had an exciting morning with incredible announcements. We're about to bring Arsalan on, and Carly and I have an exciting lineup coming up in the next couple hours.
Oh yeah, we're talking data platform. We're talking everyone's favorite thing, data migrations, and then we're hopping into AI for marketing. So we've got a hot lineup coming.
Great, and yeah, we have Arsalan coming on now. Welcome. Hey, thanks for taking the time.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
See you.
How are you?
Amazing. We have, first of all, 65,000 people plus tuning in from all over the world. Watch parties, they sending in their images. Theaters in London, theaters in Amsterdam, Tokyo, Brazil, Costa Rica, India. So it's amazing.
The numbers are still a little crazy, right? I still remember when we were a lot smaller. We were not throwing around figures like 60,000 plus. So incredible to see.
Well, I have a very hard-hitting question for you I want to start with. Okay. If you were a professional wrestler, what would your walk-on song be?
Oh, Guns N' Roses, Sweet Child of Mine.
Nice.
You knew it.
Slash.
100%, you know.
Ari called that.
Yeah. Now I want to know how Ari knew that, you know, but.
Yes.
Intuition. You have that incredible beyond life persona.
Yeah.
And congratulations on all the success and building it. I know it's just you wake up and it's a major company now, starting small with that Spark Summit and building it out. Now, so you've had so many different experiences in life. Field engineering, the team that you lead, you're on the field engineering.
I am.
Really? So
I kind of wanted to ask, what is field engineering?
What is field engineering, right? Well, look, I think field engineering, there's the diplomatic answer and then the actual one. In a lot of other organizations, it takes a lot of work to make customers successful ultimately. And they break them up into a bunch of different silos. They have very traditional names like, oh, this is pre-sales, this is post-sales, this is special. For us, we look at it, there's no question. Databricks and data and AI is a technical space just in general, right? And one of our ethos has always been, we want to be hands-on with customers, making them successful. And we want to bring all those resources to one place, not just ship an org chart to customers. So field engineering is basically anything technical that does not sit inside of core R&D. Everything from how do you help a customer understand exactly what this is to how do you make them successful going live and how do you train and develop their, people. So it's a testament to the investment of Databricks. I think about roughly a third of the company sits inside of field engineering. So lots of investment making sure customers are successful.
That's great. I know there's multiple hours of announcements, heard tons of rounds of applause, incredible things. And not everyone, has heard everything, but I want to know what were some of the most exciting parts from this morning's keynote?
Well, this is dangerous. This is like when they asked me to pick a favorite child. I've learned how to deflect that, at this point. Look, I think that there was a bunch of really interesting things, but for me, I'll give you a couple that stood out. So can't just pick one.
Yeah.
Obviously, lake-based is a new category, is incredibly interesting. I mean, sitting with customers, the ones who are just like, we do analytics, but now it's so intertwined with how do you take applications into production. The fact of having lake-based in a database that's available now, I think is incredible. I think Agent Bricks, this notion that everybody's been trying to figure out, yes, I need to use AI. How do I exactly do it? How do I go about it? And I think Agent Bricks is what I've seen is the biggest step forward in how we think people will actually engage and leverage it without necessarily needing to get into all the underlying details. And the other one I would be remiss not to mention is I think Databricks is free edition.
Yes.
Big deal, right? And not just because we come from academic roots at Berkeley, but it's always been this huge investment. How do we up-level everybody? How do we make sure that people can learn? And so that everybody now can get their own environment, open sourcing kind of all of Databricks Academy and that content for everybody to be able to become an AI expert, a data expert is super exciting.
Yeah, the free edition, and then also a significant investment into growing that learning community.
Absolutely.
100%. I know people are so excited about the free edition, myself included, because I have people asking me, how do I just try this out? How do I get my feet wet a little bit? And it was always a difficult question. Now it's so simple, send them in, jump in.
Exactly.
You're ready.
Exactly. No, I think there's a bunch of people who already said this is great. No credit card, sign up, get going and get the full power, of Databricks, being able to use the assistant, all of those capabilities. I think we've seen a huge amount of demand. And I just think universities, everybody, even on a personal basis, everybody's telling you in this data and AI era, you need to learn, you need to be hands-on and understand it to be able to move forward. So giving them a vehicle to do that and the content for it, I think we're excited to be able to do so.
Yeah. And want to hear like maybe one of your exciting news for me, Lake Base and OLTP. I used to be the head of the worldwide Oracle user group here in Moscone. And like, that's one of the pieces companies have structured, unstructured, streaming, OLTP, data warehousing, and to have that unifying, which will be all over Unity Catalog with the governance, just makes a ton of sense. So I'm personally excited in that, and just how much the market and the value that customers will get, bringing that into that larger unified umbrella.
Yeah.
I was a Databricks customer less than a year ago, and I remember asking, when are we getting OLTP? My team needs it, like soon. And I'm like, I don't know if I believe that. And now,
hey, we try to underpromise and overdeliver, not the inverse. I think
the best way to do
the exciting part about an announcement like that is you hear it and everybody's like, okay, great. Well, must have just done an acquisition. God knows when I'm going to actually get this. And you can get it. Like, here's the hundreds of people who've already been using, and it's available today. Go get it, start using. I think being able to say that, I think also gives people a lot more confidence that it's not just, marketing slides, but something that they can actually use.
Not a beta test. It's ready to rock, ready to rock and roll.
And speaking of rock and rolling, like the Databricks apps, like that uptrend, like just even the public preview to, thousands of customers, applications, like really the fastest growing in Databricks history. And we're going to have Justin come on, go beyond what was said earlier in the keynote. So that's, another.
Just don't tell him that when I picked 3 and apps wasn't one of them, because I love apps. Because then he'll be like, you're not a favorite child. Just don't mention that to him. But
there's too much to go around.
Exactly.
Yeah. And
I have to ask, so you started this company. What would you go back in time and tell baby Arsalan? Like, what do you wish you knew maybe 5-10 years ago?
Look, I think it's always a hard question, because you look at, it's like the butterfly effect. If you change something, does it kind of affect where you end up? I think the most interesting thing for us was there was a bunch of, I think, decisions we made that you sweated a lot. You knew that they were the right decision, but you sweated a lot about them. And at the end of the day, you look back and you're like, just stick to your guns on it. Like, I'll give you an example, a big one. I cannot tell you how much pressure there was in the early days that said, just go on-prem. All the money is on-prem. Nobody's going to use cloud. Nothing will be, like, literally people told us, why would you want to focus a company on places where nobody will ever actually put real data, right? And so, so the fact that you stuck to your guns there, I think one was a really big deal. The second part that's also interesting is it's always good to be paranoid, but don't sweat the small details. Like, I still remember we would, in the early days, you were focused on trying to build the company, but you were tiny. You were trying to figure out how to not die, right, at that point. And these companies that looked around you that look like behemoths and the like about them, and you're like, oh my God, did you see what they put out in the press release? What did they do? What does that mean for you? I think you probably spent more energy there versus just being like, look, there's a lot of ebbs and flows in this industry. Just focus all your energy on if you have a vision, how do you execute on that? Do right by customers. And I think that was overwhelmingly what we did, but there's definitely times where you lost a little bit of sleep wondering what this or this would announce. So that notion of you've got a path, stick to it, execute. And if you do that well, if you had a great vision and execute, you'll be in good shape. I think those would be more comforting. And that's probably what comes from more experienced entrepreneurs than we knew, that they kind of knew what that journey would look like.
Yeah. Follow your intuition. Maybe don't give in to the FOMO if you're looking around. Follow everyone else, right? Blaze your own path.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
Exactly.
Now, one of the things we love our virtual audience coming here in person. So many great reasons. And you've had the last couple of days, I know, executive forum, customer meetings, telling people, how can you accelerate your AI journey? And speaking of acceleration, Naveen Rao can't be here, but in my eyesight is that his car.
Yes.
Like, he is like, and that's actually how I met him beforehand, doing Mario Andretti, consulting with them. And they're like, you got to meet this person before, like, and we both ended up here. He's a race car driver. So, and one of the fun play on words is acceleration, using his car as like a prop. But that's realistically one of the themes of what you've been talking about, what we've all been talking about, is how data and AI, how can it accelerate customer journey. So just want to hear like some key pieces of advice you've been giving to these forums the last couple of days.
Yeah. Well, look, I think if you were to go back a couple of years ago, the question was much more still oftentimes like, okay, well, why would I pick Databricks versus X or Y? I think that doesn't really happen as much today. No, I don't mean that in an arrogant way, but I think like people are kind of sold on the power of the platform and what does it look like. I think now people are saying, great, help me understand how do I get there fast, right? Because you've got to remember most people's journey with any platform, Databricks is no different, is it starts with a migration. And so they're looking at, do I lift and shift? How do I make sure I follow the best practices? So one of the big things we've tried to do is say, here's what are the blueprints for success. You always focus on the technology. Don't forget about the people developing them. Don't forget about the processes there. And then how do we get involved to make sure what you do, you basically put things in place in the right way so you don't end up saying, okay, I got to the end state. I had no idea you were going to announce all of these things that I need to do differently. So that notion of knowing here's where you want to end up, how do we get you there faster? There's some exciting announcements tomorrow as well around how do we help people like kind of accelerate their migrations. But I think that's the biggest one. The faster we help them get there, the sooner they realize the benefits and they can start leveraging many of the new capabilities that, that we've talked about today and before.
Time to value. It's always the thing you got to figure out, right?
Yeah, and it's been an exciting year. We raised a bunch of money, added a ton of value to customers, but also had some key acquisitions. Pre-announced Neon not too long ago, and
don't ask me to pick my favorite one.
No, I'm not. Well, the good thing is there aren't that many that you could probably mention all of them. And even not at the partnership with SAP is huge. I've been helping enabling with that, and there's so much greenfield out there. So like what are some of the excitements of expanding like the data intelligence platform?
Yeah. Look, I think it's, there's always more to go, but I think that the really exciting part for us is to say, you go back to the company was founded 12 years ago, a bit at this point, you had this broad vision, but the part of it that you delivered on was this kind of narrow slice, right? You really were, you were a data science notebook company, in the very early days that also provided Spark and some data engineering. And we've been on this journey to say, what else do people need to really kind of unlock insights? And as you look at that journey, you said, okay, I have that piece. Do I add data warehousing? Do I add governance? We always kind of had the machine learning, but do I add visualization, AI, BI, make ingest better? Some of the big things that we continue to get excited about is one, and I won't kind of like steal the thunder, but even more, we'll talk about tomorrow. How do you make it easy to get data from all of the places that you care about with partnerships like SAP and the like? Now to the other side of how are we actually going to build true applications, right? Like the OLTP one was a big gap that people would have to figure out how do they do separately. And then you take a look at that and say, if I can get all the data in and I can build applications and I have things like Agent Bricks, Ali talked a little bit about it. I think that's where the future of applications goes. So now you start looking at what are the domain of kind of different types of vertical specific applications that customers can build. We can work with partners and, kind of whether SI and ISV. I think that's that notion where you truly can say, here is an end-to-end vision of how people make data and AI work. I think that's the most exciting part for us, to finally getting to that vision. And there's always going to be more that you can add. But we're excited to see the types of things we can help customers do.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the other things, industry by industry, the vertical and the horizontal both add specific value. Solution accelerators, now even focusing on the marketing persona, data intelligence for marketing. We'll be expanding more on that throughout the day.
So exciting. All right, I'm sorry. I have no chill. I have to ask you another hard question. I want to know, what is your unpopular opinion about AI?
What is my unpopular? That all the value will be in boring AI. I think everybody gets really excited. I mean, it's awesome when I see like the robot arm serving you here. Like it's very cool. Or like the humanoid doing X. But I think the challenge is like, those are the interesting parts. But really where most of the value, I think, in AI will be is taking many of the things that we do every day today, and you will not necessarily look at it if you're not trained and say, that's AI. Look at I'm sure they used Agent Bricks for that, but it will be, how do we take things that we do better? We're already seeing that of whether it's generating emails or how we interact with banks or how we basically purchase different pieces. How do we take loans out? So I think a lot of that is it's embedded of improving those things and bringing out new capabilities. I think everybody always likes like sexy headlines or like sexy use cases or where they get it. For me, the boring pieces that's where I think AI is really, it's where there's a lot of spend today and it's where there's a lot of challenges. So I think that notion of focus on those problems, less on what's the newest model and what's the newest cool use case that is on TV. I usually get shouted down because I'm like, oh, he's a boring guy. But I'm like, I spend the time with the customers. That's what they care about, right? There's very few customers I can go to and say, would you like a robot arm that can serve?
Exactly.
It sounds cool. You might have a demo on it one of these times, but it's not really what drives the business.
And you can see a Databricks robot walking around. I don't know if you saw that or not yet.
I did not. It wouldn't surprise me. You know, I think this conference has gotten big where it used to be I could walk the whole floor, see everything. Now, like, Arsalan, did you see that? I was like, I'm sorry, I didn't get a chance, but I know there's a bunch of good. I feel like I spend the week or two afterwards looking through all of the footage of hearing, oh my God, here's all the things that I missed when that happened.
Well, I love the unpopular opinions. So marketing teams hate you, but people solving hard problems love you.
That's okay. I'll take the customer liking me more than marketing. No offense to the marketing team. You know,
I'm in marketing.
I know.
And yeah, we got like the 1 to 2 minute remark. I want to hear like some fun stories. Like probably half of the audience, newish to Databricks, I know you talk about the founder's experience, but it really started small. You were all like buddies, Berkeley, and then like how did no pun intended, the spark happen?
Yeah.
How did that come to fruition?
Well, look, I think I would love to tell you that there was there was this big bang period in time when it all happened. But I think, look, in the early days, what it would say is like, even very early, you could tell that you were tapping into a key need that people were having. And the product was still lagging behind the vision. But realizing that those bets that we had made, right, which is bet on the public cloud, bet on open source, and, you know, bet on, the fact that data and AI needed to be brought together in one world. I still remember, the first alpha customer that we ever had was, Conviva working with them. I remember the first beta customers we brought in, and I still remember, fun fact that the first customer we ever signed was super excited was, MyFitnessPal. And it was like, awesome. they came back, and now I guess part of Under Armour, but it's like they came back and seeing them say, this is where we think the world is going. There isn't something out there. Your guys' vision, you just need to execute on it. Getting that reinforcement in the early days, I think, was the exciting part. Then it was like, how do you just keep going and build around it?
That's awesome.
And we have like less than 1 minute, or I guess we're done. They're asking us to toss. So thank you so much. Congratulations on the growth and all the wonderful community that you've been building.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
All right. So now we're going to toss to ask Ari about Databricks DB SQL. I want to make sure that everybody out there knows about Databricks SQL. It's now the fastest growing data warehouse in the whole world. More than just a traditional legacy data warehouse, it's a serverless, intelligent data warehouse. So we at Databricks went from 0 customers a little over 3 years ago to now a rich, diverse group in every industry of over 10,000 customers. And they moved there because of its incredible price performance, as well as the incorporation of AI, all governed in the Unity Catalog framework for the best security. So for performance, we typically see 4-time performance, even at a lower price. For serverless, this is one I personally have experienced, where you can get near instant and elastic compute. So when I give demos or I'm working on my own projects, when I don't have a data warehouse started, it comes up in just a couple of seconds, which years ago would have seemed nearly impossible. And it also has the latest and greatest everything AI or large language models, all built into SQL. So for example, one of my favorites is AI functions, where in a SQL command, you can do things like text translations or sentiment analysis of every record that you're scanning through, all simply within SQL and the Databricks SQL. So if you have a legacy data warehouse, we have a multitude of partners, and we have in-house migration tools that will help you along this process. So thanks.